2, 1. Hello, and welcome back finally to Series 3 of the Have We Made It Yet podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, the comedian Josh Young.
Yeah, correct that for the people, man. And I'm Lucas Ng, the actor portion of this podcast. Season 3, man.
Season 3, Series 3. It's hard to believe. We're entering our third year doing this.
Yep.
Lots of ups and downs. And it's been a bit of a hiatus for just a couple months. And we'll get into that a little bit. But for those of you who are just listening for the first time, welcome to the Have We Made It Yet podcast. It's where two creatives talk about the process of making it in the comedy and the acting world. And we basically give you a little look inside our journey. We both just kind of started in the last, since it's been three series of the podcast, it's been like 3 years, but we're still very new to it. And we've been taking you along this journey with us, as well as our guests. So we'll have guests on this podcast also sharing their creative journeys in acting, music, comedy, film, television, all these industries where you never quite know whether you've made it or not. So we like to figure out what everybody's interpretation of that is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So right off the top, we do like to ask each other the question because we like to give a little intro and update as co-hosts. So I'll ask Lucas our podcast question. Lucas, have you made it yet?
No. And I'll be honest, man, I was messaging you earlier today and I was like, man, a little nervous like going into season 3 right now because so much has changed. No, I have not made it yet. But as some of you may see if you watch this on YouTube, like it's a new background because that means from season 2, I moved to the other side of the country. I'm in Vancouver now. And because of family stuff and everything, I felt it was better to be back home. But that's the major change, man. And I'm getting back on that acting horse right now. Had some great meetings last week and also this week with some great agents. And I'll be making up my mind of who I want to represent me by Friday. So it's, you know what, Josh, there's not many wins in this like type of field that we're in, but being wanted, I'm going to say, is a win. So it feels good to actually have a choice of like representation. So haven't made it yet, but you know what? I'm going to plant some roots in this new city. So let's make it happen.
Hey, you know what, Lucas? You're a very talented guy, a talented Lucas out there just looking for the right team. So looking forward to seeing when you can let us know about finding the right talented team for Lucas, if that is any inside joke. Yeah,
we'll talk about that soon. But Josh,
yes,
Mr. Josh Young, have you made it yet?
I have not made it yet, but I did manage to hit a bit of a milestone in the last couple months during our little hiatus off. So just to give everybody a little update for the last 2 to 3 months, more or less, but pretty much like 2 months, I was in Mexico City. I went back. If you guys remember an episode last series, I was in Mexico City for one of them. Decided to go back and be able to work remotely for about a month and a half. Took some vacation as well. And yeah, it was a great experience. I managed to kind of find an English comedy show. Or actually it was Spanglish, but that night it was all an English lineup. So I was able to actually do some comedy in Mexico City, which actually I don't think I did comedy in the US yet. So it's my first international, if you could call it international. Well, yeah, it is. First international experience doing comedy in a different country, different culture, different language even. So that was a unique experience. Not only that, but I was able to finally put together 15 minutes and be able to perform 15 minutes, which is kind of a a big deal to me just to be able to have that opportunity to do that. And it was a great experience to not only, do some jokes in Spanish, translating into Spanish as part of the joke, but then also having enough material and being comfortable enough to do 15 minutes for the first time was a great experience.
Nice.
Yeah, so I haven't made it yet, but there's been some improvements. There's been some milestones hit. So looking forward to now being back in Toronto and getting back into the comedy scene here this summer and really improving even further.
Yeah.
But that actually leads perfectly into our guest for today, because on the show that I did, it was called the Funny Friends Spanglish Show in Mexico City. It was at this theater. It was like a multi-theater venue called the Foro Shakespeare, and our show was in one of kind of like the dive bar side of the entire venue. They had a couple other like bigger theater stages, but this one was very much a nice like little dive bar laid out stage. It opened up pretty much onto the street, so it was a pretty cool venue, and I was able to do, like I said, 15 minutes. And the host of that show is our very lovely guest today. Just to give a little teaser, he has been doing comedy in Mexico City in both English and Spanish for the last 12 years now. Started in 2010, based on what I could research. And yeah, he's been killing it for the last decade, just making audiences laugh in English and Spanish. Is well known as one of the first openly gay comedians in Mexico as well. So we kind of have a bit of a trailblazer as well on the show. And he was the host. He was a great host. He navigated through the highs and lows of the show very well. So I was very pleased to hear that he was happy to come on board. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Martín León.
Woo! Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Again, I just want to say you were a great host that night. Really just master of the ceremonies of weaving in and out comedians here and there. There were some like highs, and then there were a few awkward moments in there that had to navigate, but definitely happy to have you on. And as tradition with all of our guests, we do like to ask right off the top, Martín, have you made it yet?
Okay. Oh my God, that question is going to give me an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
No, I have very much not made it yet. I mean, there's when you said I've been doing comedy in Mexico for 12 years, and when I started here in Mexico, stand-up comedy was basically starting to. There's always been like sort of like bar comedians, we call them here in Mexico cuentachistes. They're more like, they do street jokes, but they kind of embellish them. And so when we started doing stand-up, and when I started, literally we're like 12 people here doing stand-up comedy in Mexico, we had to sort of explain to people, like, because people were like, why are you telling me your issues? I just want you to tell me like a joke about the wife that's mad at her alcoholic husband. So navigated that. And yes, like I wasn't the first gay guy to be doing stand-up comedy, but I was the only, there were other gay comedians that kind of dabbled. There was one other gay comedian who dabbled, but I was like the only one that did stand-up. And like, so in lineups, it was like, so suddenly like, oh my God, it's gay now. So after all that, right now, because like the pandemic happened, and also like I had a moment just before the pandemic where I became very disillusioned with a lot of parts of the scene, of the comedy scene here in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like hit the brakes hard on a lot of things, just like 3 to 4 years ago. And then the pandemic, of course, didn't help because, you know, like, I did some Zoom shows, but like, so I think right now I'm starting to reconfigure what making it means for me. Because for a long while I was like, here in Mexico, since we were so new, and there were 12 people doing stand-up at first, but like a lot of people wanted to help us. We got like steroids pumped into the, like, I got into Comedy Central Latin America when I had been doing stand-up for like 2 years.
Wow.
And on the one hand, that really pushes you to like bring out your best material. On the other hand, I see that material and I want to erase it off the face of the earth. And so like there was the first Mexican stand-up comedian to have a special on Netflix, Richo Farril. He also had been doing comedy for like 2 years, and you can tell. And so I was seeing all these people like getting super big, super fast. And I just felt so like, what am I doing wrong? Am I not being funny enough? Is it the gay thing? Is it, I'm also kind of like intense, I'm the kind of guy that's like, let's make jokes about homophobia and let's make jokes about, I was known as being too woke. I suppose I still am. And so like, is it that? Is that it? And then there was this guy who I respect a lot and who I ended up dating actually, who told me, Martin, you have great comedy, but you have the kind of comedy that's never going to make it big. And whether he believes it or not, whatever. But I believed it at the time, which really like puts a damper, So, and I don't want this to be like, oh my God, put Martin, because it's not like that at all. Like I enjoy doing comedy. I love doing comedy. Like just going on stage and making people laugh is my favorite place on earth. But like, I suppose I navigated this whole scene for a long while without really knowing what I wanted beyond making people laugh. And the last 2 years have helped me like, no, what I want is, XYZ. So no, I haven't made it, but I think in the process of.
Yeah, it sounds like you went in with like really pure intentions though. Like you just wanted to make people laugh. Has that changed though when you said XYZ?
Not really. Like I always, like my main thing with comedy, especially someone who sometimes, like, again, like quote unquote woke or, wants to talk about difficult topics, you meet other people who are want to either go like very dark or, they feel they're going to, save humanity through comedy. And I do tell them, like, yeah, but it's like through comedy, if you're not making people laugh, you can't just shield yourself on the idea that you're topic is difficult or people don't understand you, whatever. It is more, and I don't want to pretend that I'm doing anything, better or like more, like deeper than anyone else. In the end, the challenge is to make people laugh. In fact, this guy who told me that your comedy's whatever, he also has a line that I really take to heart, which is like, it's not the job of the comedian to make people laugh. It's the job requirement. So the first thing you need to do as a comedian is to be able to make people laugh. And then that skill, you're going to use it to whatever, for screenplays, for, public speaking, writing, whatever. So yeah, it is the main thing for me. It's always been making people laugh. And there's no better feeling in the world for me than, like the way I say it is like, because how it happened when I started stand-up comedy here in Mexico was this very like kind of, what's the word? Well, it was a very coincidental thing where I was like thinking, because my parents were always into comedy and both English and Spanish. So stand-up was part of it. And I lived in Connecticut for 2 years before going to college. So I watched a lot of Comedy Central. So I loved stand-up and I started film here in Mexico back in 2000 and 2004. And I finished, and I started working in productions, and I didn't really like it. And I was like, I wish I could do stand-up. But here in Mexico, there's like nowhere to do stand-up. And then a friend of mine was like, hey, she's like, I'm dating this guy. I need you to come with me so you can tell me like 30 minutes into the date, oh my God, we have to go. And you save me up from this date. So I went to the date, and she's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I was like, fine. And so I was left alone with this guy, and I was like, what do you do? And he's like, I do stand-up comedy. I'm like, oh my God, where? So then like 1 hour later, this girl's like, we have to go. I'm like, no, you can go. I need to talk to this guy. So then there was this event basically here in Mexico, which was like a stand-up comedy festival. And the guy who had started doing stand-up comedy here in Mexico, who's a famous actor called Héctor Suárez Gómez, he was doing this festival to like find 6 people he was going to train in order to make like a comedy group. And so I got into that festival, and I had like a month to prepare, and you had to prepare 5 minutes, and I repeated my 5 minutes like to myself over and over. And so I finally went to the show, and like the first joke, and I remember this joke because like the first joke I made was made out of like, please don't laugh me, please don't boo me off the stage, which was like, hi, I'm Martín León, I'm your comedian for the night. I'm a good comedian. I tell you this so you know that if you don't laugh, it's your fault, not mine. And when that joke landed, I was like, this is the best thing ever. I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Awesome.
And yeah, like I said, it's like it was happened. It's like, oh my God, I'm home, you know. And ever since then, it's just been, I want to make people laugh. And for me, it's also like the great thing about comedy is when you surprise people, when you say something that people really didn't expect, and that they later said like, I could have never made that connection. Like that's the best compliment for a comedian. So like that is for me. And I think for a while I just focused way too much on the inner workings and not on how do I actually make a career out of this?
Yeah. I did have a question on there because you did talk about writing in your first 5 minutes though. Just like from the quick clips that I saw on YouTube and everything, you do talk a lot about like, not controversial, but like topics that some people would want to steer away from and everything. Is there any topic to you that's off limits?
I mean, there's stuff I won't touch because I don't feel it's my place to talk about. At first being the only, like at first it was only me and this other girl who's a lesbian, Adriana Chavez. And she was the first lesbian stand-up comedian here in Mexico. And she was also very kind of like, very confrontational. And she's like, let's talk about, women, violence against women and everything. So at first, like I did feel that maybe as the only gay comedian, I had to sort of try to talk about parts of the acronym that I'm not really part of. Like, like I did try to do like a couple things against transphobia and stuff like that. But it always felt like, well, I'm like, ideally we would have someone from that, who identifies as trans to talk about that. And now we do. There's actually, now I know at least 3 trans girls are doing stand-up, if not 4.
Nice.
4. And so no, the way I say it is like, I don't think any topics are off limits. I think you can use comedy to talk about anything. And people might be surprised about this because I am the first person to be like, oh my God, that was, quote unquote, problematic. But the other side of that coin is like, if you're going to touch on a sensitive topic, you need to do it with the care that sensitive topic needs. And if you're not going to do it, and just like you have freedom of expression and you can talk about whatever, well, so do I, and I can say your joke sucked, and I know that it kind of gets muddier with how social media reacts to stuff, but as far as I'm concerned, like, you can talk about anything, and especially like at an open mic. If you have a joke on an open mic, I will criticize it if you ask me to, because I don't believe if you give, you know, unsolicited advice doesn't help anyone. But like if you, however messy a joke was at an open mic, that's what open mics are for.
Yep.
You know, if you realize that your joke made everyone uncomfortable, nobody laughed, and then you take it to an actual show, well, then, you know, if people are paying for stuff, they have the right to complain about what they're paying for. But yeah, no, I don't think jokes are off top. Rather, I don't think topics are off limits. I just think that if you're gonna raise this banner of, you know, comedy is this amazing thing where you can, like, you know, bring consciousness about whatever, blah, 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 then I do expect you to do the work.
Yeah, I know, I agree, because I feel like when there's edgelord comedians or kind of like trolling type of comedians who like to do those type of jokes but are just kind of like pounding you over the head with just the shock value of it, then it's like it's not doing the work because the audience is not really with you along for the ride. Like, I agree, I feel like no topic is off limits, but the execution of it can also be, you know, hit or miss, and can sometimes be like extremely brutal. Like, if you want to talk about a certain topic that's like controversial, or like you may not even be a part of the actual affected group, like then you do have to put more like emphasis on like how you do it, like where you're bringing the humor in so the audience can laugh with you. And that definitely requires like more of a scalpel than, you know, than like a chainsaw approach towards it. Along the same questions then, as like one of the first comedians to be touching on some of these more taboo subjects, like I know Mexico as well, stand-up comedy is still very new. It's also a very Catholic country, so like, you know, very conservative in a lot of senses. How did you feel the response has been to your style of comedy in like just public bars or like smaller shows where more of the general public audience, it isn't like a Comedy Central like big production, it's more, you know, your everyday weekly shows? Like, how has that audience reaction been in your experience over the last few years?
That's a very good question. It varies, and I've been pleasantly surprised in general by audiences here in Mexico. Like, I haven't really been, you know, when I've been heckled, it's not because I'm gay. It's just some, you know, random drunk guy. And, you know, just like he's like, oh my God, the gay guy's like, oh my God, the fat guy, or oh my God, the whatever. So on the one hand, I've been pleasantly surprised. On the other, yeah, there are times where you realize that people are just refusing to connect with you. You know, like everyone else is laughing, and you have one guy who's just staring daggers into you because he's like, "How dare a gay man, you know, try to make me laugh?" And I remember that, like, the first time that I had like let's call him a homophobic heckler, I was in this stage up in Estado de Mexico, and we were like 5 comedians, each one of us doing like 10 minutes. And halfway through my set, this guy just like, you know, yells, I don't know if you want to believe that, yells puto, which is basically the F word in Spanish. Right. But like halfway through my set, I have been doing like, everyone was laughing, it was good. And halfway through my set, he just yells this out to me. And everyone goes quiet, and I had to turn around. I'm like, did you just notice? Like, I've been talking about being gay for the last 5 minutes. Did you have to warn the rest of the people? Oh my God, a gay person is talking to us. So in general, I've had good experiences. It is weird because, yes, we're very Catholic, and a lot of people are very conservative. But I do think that it helps that I'm making people laugh, and that I don't go into heavier stuff until like I have them like on my side, basically. I've had really great experiences, you know, like after shows, like you know, older women coming and telling me like, oh my God, my nephew's gay, and I'm gonna tell him about you because I think it's fantastic, you know. So there's this, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm not answering your question, but there's this very mixed bag,
Right.
where I do see people. I think also stand-up comedy here in Mexico, just by its very nature, just kind of keeps the most conservative people away.
Right. Yeah.
But in larger shows, I have seen, these reactions, and especially when I go like outside Mexico City, because Mexico City is like this haven. We legalized same-sex marriage like a few years, rather several years before the rest of Mexico. There's a clinic in Condesa, which is like exclusively for LGBTQ people. Well, not exclusively, but it helps, with like HIV medicines and hormones for trans people and whatever. And so on the one hand, there's this haven here in Mexico City, and not even the whole of Mexico City, like downtown Mexico City. So when I go out, what I've noticed is that I first have to explain to them that, I'm gay and it's fine. I'm not, if I just go into like, oh my God, my boyfriend and I the other day we're doing whatever. They're like, wait, boyfriend? What? No. So first I have to be like, I'm gay and it's blah, 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 blah. And that usually like, because once you realize like, and that's like a cool thing that I've learned, that I've seen. And again, it's like been a pleasant surprise. I think family and love wins over prejudice most time. Like, yeah, maybe you have Catholic Church saying, oh my God, the gays are bad, whatever. But when in a family, especially here in Mexico, which is such large family groups sometimes, yeah, your tío, whatever, happens to be gay, but it's more important for him to be close to the family and to, help around and, to be okay, than it is. Yeah, maybe it is this whole thing where people don't say he's gay, they're like, oh no, he's just single and he hasn't found the right girl.
Right.
But in the end, there is that. And again, it's been a pleasant surprise, but there's also been some not so nice stuff, like nothing really, I mean, knock on wood, nothing really bad. But yeah, it's just this mixed bag.
Yeah, no. And I think it's encouraging definitely to hear that for the most part, like the public audiences have been at least like kind of receptive, and they're not like immediately the second you mention it or the second you establish that as your presence, that they're like, oh, immediately booing. But it's like the humor, you're able to, get in there and then make the audience laugh, and then make the audience, I guess, just feel more comfortable in a sense, which is also something that like a lot of minority comedians or performers have to do initially anyways. It's like, yes, you do need to break the ice of the audience. It's like, yes, I am Asian, or yes, I am gay. It's like, you have to do that in order for the audience to be like, oh, okay, we can. It's like, okay, that you're this, so that we know that that we know that everything is good. So totally. So it's odd. It really is. You do have to do a lot of like audience management. And this is the thing where like, if you're edgelord type of comedian, or you're just edgy just for the edgy sake, that it's like, you're not managing the audience really. You're just forcing these like shock value stuff onto the audience. But yeah, no, which is why I think like for you being not only as a great host is like you're just able to be quick on your feet and like handle different audiences and adjust from there. I'm wondering then, like, in terms of how like you feel like the current working comedian in Mexico, like the scene, if it's like vibrant enough to have enough opportunities week in and week out to go do comedy. Like, how would you say the scene is now in terms of vibrancy?
I think it's really, really hard to just make, just have enough, just make enough money in a month out of just stand-up. Mm-hmm. Maybe here in Mexico, there are more opportunities, but like, especially post-pandemic or post whatever time we're in now, there are several shows happening, but most of them don't pay that. You're sharing whatever comes in with 8 other people. Mm-hmm. And unlike cities with a more established stand-up comedy scene, like when I went to New York ages ago, like it's really interesting how like you can hit 3 open mics on one night. So like you can start writing something that morning, and by that night have something. You already try that with 3 different audiences.
Yeah.
So so it just helps you improve because you have more places to work in. Here in Mexico, we have like we have 2 comedy clubs. There's 3 if you're generous about one of them. Yeah, you have Photo Shakespeare, who has Photo Shakespeare. Like, funnily enough, at first they didn't want to do stand-up comedy there because they're like, we only do theater. Shakespeare. And when they realized that stand-up comedy was pulling in numbers, they were like, fine, we'll try it. And now there's like a stand-up comedy night like there from Thursday, I think, to Saturday, if not Sunday. Not all of them, not all of them doing fantastically, but they're there. But what I've noticed is that at first people here were like, I'm a stand-up comedian, I don't do any other type of comedy. And fortunately now that's changing. And people are realizing that no, what we are is comedians. So there's so many things that you can do with a comedic talent. You can write, you can write for, for whatever content website, you can write screenplays, you can make content, you can make, you can work for an ad agency, which is what I do. And for a while, I think people were kind of really wanting this life of, I only do comedy. And now it's more like, no, like I do stand-up comedy, but I also do comedy in these other ways. I think the first one, and I also think it's from people that have had very clear ideas of where they wanted to go with their comedy. There's this guy called Gon Curiel who started, he knew he wanted to go into TV. So he kind of like pointed himself in that direction. Then at some point, he just started having this great like online presence, and people were kind of telling him jokingly, seriously, you should make an OnlyFans. And then he did, and he calls it his Gonlyfans. And I don't know how much money he's making on that, but that's working out for him. There's more people writing screenplays, and there's more people in the movie industry looking into people coming out of stand-up, or screenwriters who's like, okay, I'm going to try stand-up because that's a place for me to practice my joke writing. So it is expanding, and it is also colliding with this world of comedy that already existed in the industry that already had in Televisa. We have like 2 major TV networks here, which is Televisa and TV Azteca. And also, there's this weird animosity between, and I think it happens everywhere, like with those people on TikTok where there's this kind of like, you're not really a comedian, you're just lip syncing jokes. But I think some comedians are finding how to translate what makes them work on stage to TikTok. And so, yeah, it's kind of expanding and meeting all these things. So I think right now, yeah, you could find yourself, like working comedy full time. You probably aren't making that much money, or you have rich parents, which helps. But yeah, no, that's the scene right now, I feel.
Yeah, no, that seems like a great overview and breakdown of it, because it is true, like comedians, obviously right off the bat, you can't make a living off open mics, especially now as things are getting more and more expensive. You got to diversify into other things like podcasts, TikTok, different social media. Speaking of which, when I started looking at like your social media as well, I noticed you have like 4 podcasts.
I do.
Like 2 are weekly, like 1 is bi-weekly, 1 is periodic, but like just like we have 1 podcast. I have another one that I've been trying to do myself, but it's been a while since I put anything out. But to do 4 podcasts yourself is like, how have you managed to juggle all of that?
I went crazy.
Yeah.
When the pandemic started, like I lost my job and I was like, I need to do something because I live on a 4th floor by myself, and that's dangerous. So I'm like, I'm gonna do. And at first I was like, I was gonna have a podcast every day of the week because it sounds easier, right? Like, yeah, no, I'll just do a pod. Like, I'll just talk into a microphone for whatever. It's not like I don't talk to myself. But like, so right now it's only four. One of them is called Todo Rosa, which is a play of words in Spanish. And I record that with two friends of mine, one who used to be a stand-up comedian and another Colombian friend who just happens to be funny. And that's basically, you know, we started that just because we wanted to get together to drink wine, and we're like, we're already here, let's record.
Yeah.
And so that one's a lot of fun. And then the other ones, I have one called Tamaño Oficio, which Todo Rosa is weekly. Tamaño Oficio is also weekly, but we do 12 episode seasons and then rest for a month.
Okay.
And that one, we interview LGBTQ people about their work situation. Like, so the idea is to talk to LGBTQ people, because usually most LGBT podcasts end up talking to like kind of the same type of people who are like public facing, you know, like actors, you know, comedians, activists. And we kind of wanted to get a more a wider picture of what it was like to work as a LGBTQ person, LGBTQ plus person here in Mexico. So we've interviewed lawyers, teachers, architects, and mostly in Mexico City, sadly, but we have had, like, we interviewed people from outside Mexico City too. And then there's the one I do with my roommate, which helps because he's here and he's a comedian too.
Yeah.
So we were like living together. I was like, let's do a podcast. Like, sure, whatever. Every other comedian has a podcast nowadays. Let's do it. So that one's called Sal de Mar, because he's Saltiel and I'm Martin. So Sal. I'm thinking about it. So we just ask each other questions around the topic and we try to be funny about it. And I end up roasting him more often than not, which is accidental, I swear. But the editor's kind of like, you're so mean to him. And I'm like, he just sets it up for me. And, you know, like, I can't stop. And then the other one, which is bi-weekly, it's the most niche thing. I've always loved fan fiction. I don't know if you know fan fiction. I think it's more, you know, ever since 50 Shades of Grey, sadly, more people know what fan fiction is. And we kind of like this, and I met this friend in film school, and she was the first person, like, well, not the first one, but she was the first person here in Mexico who knew what fanfic was. And we started talking like, oh my God, Harry Potter. Oh my God, yeah, Harry Potter. And name another character here to ship him with. And so we were like, let's do a podcast. And we said, like, why not a fanfic podcast? No one's done one of those. And that one's really funny. That was a lot of fun because, you know, I get to talk about something really niche with a friend who knows about it. And also, for some reason, Brazil really likes us. Nice. So fanfic is big in Brazil. So that's kind of like, so yeah, those are my, and I want to do an English project, but my brain's like, Martin, please. You need to sleep at some point.
Oh man, yeah, like all four of them are like have such unique kind of structures and topics and themes to them, and then they are all in Espanol. So any like Espanol listeners definitely listen to all. If you want a little bit of everything, you could listen to just Martin's podcast catalog. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just thinking about how much like Lucas and I like time we put into like scheduling and making sure like we can just put this out every 2 weeks is like, man, you're putting 2 out every week and then like going on rotation for the other ones as well. It's like, dang, have you felt like all those podcasts have like translated into when you go out and do stand up? Yeah, like have you seen some fruition through those ventures?
Kinda. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like my main fault, if I can call it that, or my main frustration with myself is that I'm very insecure. I'm shy. I'm not shy, but like I'm insecure. So sometimes like for a while I had so many podcasts and like people knew it because like they follow me on social media, and I know I do have I have managed to get 9,000 followers on Twitter, which just, you know, like
awesome.
But then, you know, like at the end of the show, I would always forget to plug my podcast, and you know, like, so yeah, like some people have told me like after show, oh my God, I've heard you in Todo Rosa, or I've heard you in blah blah. But it's been I haven't, and I think it goes back to the not knowing where I want to take it, because podcasts at first were kind of this thing I was doing because, like, as I said, pandemic started, I was here by myself, didn't have a job for a month, so I was like, I'm just gonna do this, and like my idea was like to start a Patreon and do like extra episodes and whatever. I will say that it helps a lot. I do have an editor.
Yeah.
So because before that, I just, you know, it was record and then go into editing, and my brain was like, please just let me go.
Yeah.
So it does help a lot having an, I don't know if you edit this yourselves, but it is, yeah. It does help a lot. But so no, what I've seen is I people will, you know, like find my podcast because they follow me on social media or whatever, and then they'll start, you know, like interacting with me through the podcast. And I know I need to do a better job in making that like a system and not random happenstance. But it's just like it feels so stupid, but like I just have this visceral response. I don't know. I am working this in therapy, I swear. But it's kind of like I kind of want to tell people, but I'm like, well, you know, yeah, I have 4 podcasts. Yeah, they're kind of funny. Yeah, they're good. Blah blah blah. And that's like my main point of what I'm working on right now, so I can be like, yes, I have a podcast. Yes, go listen to it. And yes, you know, they're good. But when I'm listening back to them, I mean, you both are creative people, so you know this. I'm just noticing every single flaw in the whole thing. Like, oh my God, why did you say that? Oh my God, I said that too fast. Oh my God, why did... So, I don't know why I ended up talking about that. Happens to
man. Don't be so hard on yourself, man. Yes. You're putting stuff out there. That's the main thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely like the creative's dilemma, is like you obsess over putting stuff out and creating stuff, and then you just cannot look at it again because it's like you put so much effort into it. It's like if you just find out another thing that pops into your head, it's just you start spiraling or what. That's why like I hear a lot of actors and actresses, like they can never watch what they do after they've acted it, and then it's out there, it's done. It's like, no, I can't watch it. I don't even know what my performance was like. I can't watch it. I just did it. It's good, and then I'm happy not looking at it again. But
gosh, how many times have you watched your CBC set?
Well, okay, it's not the CBC set. I every time I have to legally say it's not with CBC. It was at the CBC theater, but. I've watched it a decent amount of time, and I do literally show it to every new person I meet, because then they could think I'm cooler than I am. So I mean, cool. Hey, similarly, like Martin with the Comedy Central like clips, it's like that's always a nice little flex, because you'll be like, oh yeah, you know, if you want to look up my comedy, just go to YouTube, just check it out. It's like, oh, I got a Comedy Central thing. It's like, oh, I got a nicely produced clip. It's like, oh yeah, no, I'm good. But yeah, like I did want to touch on that like quickly, like at the end here, is like when you did do that Comedy Central, those recordings, you did more than one.
Yes.
Like, how was that feeling? Because definitely I know as a comedian, to be given the opportunity to be in front of not only a good stage, good audience, but to have it recorded professionally and it looks nice. Like, how was that experience? Did that feel like a making it moment for you?
Yes. Oh my God. I mean, once I got over the imposter syndrome, because the first time we recorded, there wasn't even Comedy Central Latin America at the time. It was VH1. We only had VH1 here in Latin America, so they recorded for VH1. And actually, I specifically want to thank Hector Juarez Gomis, who started the whole thing, because originally VH1, because originally VH1 approached him with, we want to do your show in VH1, just your show. And he was wanting to save that for later. So he's like, you know what? No, but I have all these comedians who I've been working with for the past year. So I can, you know, you should give them a space. And so, yeah, the first one, I mean, it does feel fantastic because like, you go for, you know, you go and they tell you, okay, we're going to first check your wardrobe. So they don't give you wardrobe, but you bring stuff and you kind of like say, oh, this is what I had in mind. And, you know, they're like, okay, yeah, and we'll take you and we'll give you this. And, you know, then you have like the, you know, the makeup and the light, you know, the light test and everything. It just feels like you're really like, oh my God, this is really happening. And then I have actually been in Comedy Central Latin America 6 times total. Yeah. And they do one every year, and it's this massive thing here in Mexico. The last year, I think they had like 450 tapes sent in, which I guess is even small, like for US numbers, but or for like, you know, English comedy numbers, but yeah, no, like it doesn't get old at all. It feels amazing, and everyone in the production is just there to try and help you. So like, if you like, there was this year where I was like, I want to wear a skirt and, you know, like a kilt, and they were like, yeah, totally. So I actually had that one made, and, you know, they give you, they tell you, you know, like, well, you know, if you're going to be wearing this, you have to be aware of this and blah, blah, blah. They're super nice. And yeah, no, it did feel like a making it moment, totally. And it does feel, you know, great that people can like type your name into YouTube and find a clip of you. And like one of the first like really, really, really touching fan interactions that I had was through there, because like the first time I presented myself, the first time I recorded back when it was still VH1, like, I remember because like at first, like I told all my friends, because I was so excited, like, you should have to come watch me because this is I'm recording and it's fantastic. And I don't know if they didn't believe me or they just thought they were like humoring us. Nobody came. Like they asked me, how many of your friends are coming? I'm like, none. And then one friend was there because someone else dragged him. Like there's this comedy thing, I guess, come. And that's why he ended up there. And so like nobody came, and I was like feeling down, like, oh my God, you know, like, am I really even that funny, blah, blah. And then once the show came out, this, again, it's Latin America, so it's fantastic that you get to be shown all over Latin America. And this boy from Guatemala, who was 16 at the time, and well, now, you know, he's out of college and everything. We actually have each other on Facebook. He just sent me this message saying, and it was like, because it was super late and I was like up just obsessing about nothing, and just this message like, you know, I just saw your show and it made me realize that, you know, that I can do whatever I want because like you're doing what you want there. And so yeah, whenever I feel super like, you know, like insecure, I remember that. But it is fantastic, and it is just so it is an honor, you know. It's all the cheesy things you've heard, but it's also, you know, I don't want to quote Lady Gaga here. You know, there can be 100 people in the room, whatever. No, what I will say is that once your words reach that far, and someone tells you your words, I saw myself in them, and because I saw myself in them, I think I can do more, then it does kind of light a fire under your ass to be like, yeah, I need to do this more, and I need to do this better, and I need to get to more people. Yeah. Not because I believe that I'll do, you know, that I'll be like that for everyone, but because it does help, and it does, you know, I think, you know, as you mentioned, like as a minority, I have often, you know, there's this line that says, be the person you needed to be when you were younger. And I don't know if younger me needed a single 38-year-old comedian living by himself, but it does again feel super nice to just be honest to people, make them laugh, and at the end they tell you, hey, that was great.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's no better feeling, and to just be able to know that people who you've never met before have seen your material like online or like at a show, and they took something from it. Like you were able to connect with them just a little bit. That really does, make all the difference in the world in terms of like how doing this is different from like a day job, because sometimes day jobs, it's like you're just disconnected through your work. Is like, oh, you did a good job, cool, I guess. Is like, but this is kind of like, you're connecting with people at a certain point. But yeah, no, like, okay, so we've talked about like some big moments here, and like we're talking about like your podcast. That's kind of like one of your main focuses. Like one of our last questions then that we do like to ask our guests is what at this stage you feel like making it would mean to you now. Like what would that kind of be for you at your current stage?
Like the person whose job I want the most is Bianca Del Rio. I don't know if you've seen her. She's a drag queen. She won season 6 of RuPaul's Drag Race, and she has won all of them, even though she hasn't been in. No, she's like she's a stand-up. She started as a stand-up, and she mainly does kind of like insult comedy, actually. But she won RuPaul's Drag Race, and then she started touring just worldwide. And so you see her going, I think right now she's in Europe. She came to Mexico to do her show. I slept on the tickets, so I couldn't get some. But she did a Latin, like the first tour was just the US, and then Europe. She's gone to Asia. She's gone everywhere. And yeah, that would be for me, like right now, like a big tour, like being able to go just places and meet people and talk to people and have them, have them laugh at my jokes and have them and learn from them, and then kind of like it's amazing how every single country, we all kind of laugh at the same things, but every single place you go to has a very specific, have their specific quirks and whatever. And talking to people from everywhere, like one of the things I love about doing English stand-up comedy here in Mexico City is that I met you Josh, and I met Shruti from India, and I met people from Europe, and I met a lot of people from the US. So that would be for me, like right now making it looks like being able, like just writing a show like every 1 or 2 years, and then being able to tour it around and having people expect you to come back and have those messages like, come to my town. That's my kokoro.
That sounds great. That sounds great in my head as well. Great. Well, we're coming towards the end of the podcast, and every episode before we played a game with our guests called like 10 word association. But this season, we feel like we want to change it up a bit. So Lucas and I will each have just one question for a what would you rather type question that we think might be another interesting way to get into the minds of our guests. So I'll let Lucas start us off with his would you rather question.
Oh man, I have 2 right now, and one of them could I don't know. Okay, all right. So would you rather okay, I'm gonna go for this one. Okay, screw it. Would you rather bomb a set fully clothed, like your worst bomb, or kill naked?
Well, already bombed fully clothed. No, I think I would rather kill naked. Yeah, like I'm sorry.
Love it.
Love it. As long as they're not laughing at my body.
Like you're so funny that the fact that you're naked on stage is not even crossing their mind. That's the sign of a master comedian. That's what it is. Okay, cool.
That's my one. Yeah.
All right. I've got one that's kind of similar to like the theme of our podcast. So Martin, would you rather see 10 years into your future and know what your life will be like, or would you rather not know?
Oh God. Oh my God. I suppose the question is, can I do something about it if I see 10 years into the future?
Yeah, all the psychological, impacts of what that could mean.
Oh my God. I think I would rather not know. I think if I knew, like, even if I knew, my God, everything. This is 10 years to my future. If I knew, I kind of be like, I would just remember everything, bad about it and be like, okay, I need to keep that from happening. And I think I would just, cause a Mad Max version of a world to happen by trying to prevent something bad. So
yeah,
I think I'm gonna stay with no, and yeah, and then just wonder forever if I could have changed anything if I knew.
Oh man, I always love those type of questions because it's like I honestly think it is like a lose-lose situation if you do see into the future. It's like even if you're living an amazing life 10 years in the future, like so that means that it's gonna happen. So then what do you do now? Like, does nothing you do matter, or does like everything you do matter? Or is like so it's like ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. We're just constantly trying to make it. We don't know when it's gonna happen or if it'll happen, but it's the pursuit, man. It's the pursuit.
Or hell, in 10 years you'll have 10 podcasts. Like, who cares? Just do it.
Per day. Like,
per day. Oh
just
man.
Talking constantly.
Amazing. Well, you know what? We're coming to the end of our podcast. Thank you so much, Martin, for joining us all the way from Mexico City. I think it's been a great conversation with you just to learn a bit more about the comedy scene in Mexico and your experience as well. So thank you again so much for Martín León.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope to see you guys if you come back here. I don't know if you've been here to Mexico, Lucas, but if you haven't, I hope you visit soon.
I want to soon, yeah.
Yeah. And it was great meeting you. It's great watching you on stage. And yeah, just thank you so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. And like, what are your social media handles as well? Just so we.
Of course, my social media basically everywhere is my name with all the letters jumbled because I am different. It's at Mintonarel, Mintonarel, because at Martín León on Twitter is owned by this guy from Peru who hasn't tweeted since 2009, and I hate him. And yeah, no, like at some point I was like, yeah, no, the Mintonarel, it sounds fancy. Ooh. And then I just kept it, and I'm sticking to my guns until someone tells me, Martin, stop being stupid.
Nice. And then of course we'll include links down below to all four of Martin's podcasts, so definitely check those out if you can understand Espanol, and then follow him across social media. Look up his comedy on YouTube as well, just to check it out in Espanol. And I think like your YouTube channel does have a couple clips on there that is also English.
I have my second English routine bit set, whatever, on there, which I did here in Mexico, and then I have a couple clips from shows are like 2-3 years old, and I'm trying to get more, but every time I record myself I'm like, no, I can do it better.
yeah, that's that dilemma. But yeah, check them out. Lucas, what are your handles?
You can find me across social media at Lucas John Ing. And Josh, bring it home, baby.
Yes, find me at Josh Yang Comedy across everything. And of course, the Sleep with Josh podcast is still out there, albeit very few new episodes, but it's still out there. You still got a collection of things you can listen to me read. So Sleep with Josh podcast. And of course, like, subscribe, and follow to the at HWMIY podcast, Have We Made It Yet podcast on YouTube and across also social media. Thank you so much for listening to our Series 3 Episode 1 kickoff episode. So yeah, stay tuned for more in a couple weeks. Have a good night.
Peace.